Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. Today I am going to be scrapbooking the second half of this Project Life spread. I am doing this one a little bit differently. I am not using manufactured cards. Instead, I am making my own Project Life cards, and so this is taking a little bit longer. I want to put some red down on this card before I move on to do the second half of this spread. But this little acrylic piece, because it's see-through, is not providing the same vibrance of red that I'm looking for. It's basically kind of like blending in too much. So I wasn't sure if this was going to work, but it ends up working really, really well. I took some heavy body white paint. This is Liquitex Titanium White. And I chose heavy body because it's nice and thick and it would go on thick and definitely not be see-through, but also it has such little water content that it would dry fairly quickly. And so there was a little spot that was a little thin, so I just put a little bit more on my fingertip and I'm just basically tapping it on. I was going to use a paintbrush and I thought, I don't want to clean a paintbrush just for this tiny little application. My fingers should be fine, so that's what I did. I just used my acrylic block there as a palette for that, but as you can see, I didn't even really need to. I could have just put the paint right on my fingertip like I did the second time around. Now I'm going to let that piece dry, and while I do that, I am going to spray, and I've got this new setup here for spraying because basically I just changed the angle so that you could see what I'm doing. I couldn't see whether you could see because the splatter guard was in the way of my computer monitor. But anyhow, I set this up because every time I do splatters these days, I'm getting it all over my computer and all over I keep my Cricut Joy up by my computer too, and it was just making a mess everywhere. So I thought I need something better than what I had. So I just made this the other day. I did some maintenance around my scrap room and made a few things and kind of topped up supplies and that sort of thing. I actually had to go get my husband to open this. I hurt my finger trying to open it. It was on there so tight. This is Heidi Swapp Color Shine in gold, and I'm just dripping it everywhere. And because that New Year, New Story card is fairly shiny, I was able to remove some of the splotches when they landed in a weird place. So that's that. Just put that away, and now what I have left here is this really cute card. And meanwhile, the star has dried, and look at the difference that makes. I was so pleased that it worked. I wasn't sure, but now, as you can see, that star is not getting lost in the black picture behind it. Instead, it stands out and adds another pop of red. I just wanted to balance off the pop of red that's up on the Betty White card. And now, again, before I move on, I just want to do any final touches to this while I still kind of have the ideas. It's the next morning, so I'm all fresh and feeling like I've got all kinds of ideas again. I was getting kind of tired at the end of this page last night. I usually use this Coats Gold thread, but I have this other brand. I don't know where this is from, but this one is almost gone, so I thought I better use this before I open up my Coats Gold, which I usually use that Coats in my sewing machine anyways. So I just bundled up a whole lot of this gold thread. It's so pretty. And I just added a big glob of Tombow Mono multi-adhesive and then I just glued it right back down into the same spot that it was before. And then while the glue is still wet, I'm just kind of grabbing any loose ends and pulling back the heart and then sticking it under into this. At this point, the glue is getting pretty tacky. So there's how that looks. So I love this card. It's so cute. And that's it for that one. Now, I got a bit of glue on the heart, so I'm trying to kind of dilute it with water so it doesn't dry in a way that leaves a gray or a little splotch behind. Now I'm going to actually move this half all the way off. Usually I keep both sides beside one another while I'm designing the second half. I'll still have the first half up close by, but my desk is all full of supplies since I'm making these cards by hand, so I had to move it over to the side. Now on this one, as you can see, there are far fewer photos, so I'm going to grab a couple from the ones that I had pushed up I think I might grab a couple, or maybe I don't. I think actually this is all I'm going to use. I also took another card and I just, that January looks like this around here. That was another Ali Edwards card from the January 2021 kit. And so I still have it poking around, so I thought I better use it. So that's why I'm cutting it up like this. And I'm going to mat it in black using just a scrap that I had in my Rascog where I keep my Project Life supplies. And then I'm just going to grab my small trimmer. This is by Fiskars, but it's available from Close to My Heart. And I just cut that down because the size of that paper wouldn't fit in my trimmer. So I'm just going to trim that down into a nice mat. Oops, the bottom was a little bit too wide, so I just trimmed that down a little bit more. And now I'm going to mat this onto this pattern paper, and I'm just putting it in a place where basically I didn't want so much black. I wanted more of the colors to be showing in my little tiny bit of matting that shows. So I really like that pattern for a mat because it gives you kind of like big splotches of color, but it's not so overwhelming when you use it as a mat. Now I'm going to put this all on one of those green pieces, mint green pieces of cardstock, but I want to do some stamping, and what I'd like to do is a repetitive pattern. So I'm just looking at anything in the stamp sets that I have that might make a nice repetitive pattern, and I found this adorable little hexagon. It's been a long time since I've worked with hexagons, so I wanted to just kind of give this a go. I'm going to be inking this up in Brilliance Gold ink. And I can't figure out, I mean, oftentimes when you're using this ink on anything other than black, you have to stamp multiple times to get it really the nice color that you're looking for. So I'm using my Stampin' Up stamp chamois there to clean my stamp in between. And I couldn't remember if I had re-inked this lately or if I needed to re-ink it. It seemed like it wasn't very inky to me, but once I started re-inking it, I realized this is pretty saturated already. I don't think this actually needs to be re-inked. So I'm going to re-ink it a little bit, but not very much. As I work it in, like you kind of squeeze to get the re-inker on it, and then you kind of just have to move it around using the nozzle without squeezing in order to work the ink into the foam. And so yeah, it's fine. Maybe it could have used a little bit of a re-inking, but it certainly wasn't desperately in need of re-inking, but that's okay. So I'm just going to do a line of hexagons across the top here. And using my MISTI allows me to double stamp, which is really important when you're using this gold brilliance ink because it does take a couple of coats in order to really get that nice brilliance to it. And then I will make a second row of hexagons just nestled into the crevice between the top two. And 3 per stamp like that. And then in order to continue this pattern, I'm going to have to move my paper over a little bit in my MISTI. And the spacing between these is not perfect, but it really doesn't have to be. With a hand-stamped repetitive pattern like this, it's okay that it doesn't look as perfect as a manufactured pattern because, we do these things by hand for a reason because we want it to have that handmade look. So it's okay. So now I'll just get that last little one over on the edge there. And see, this takes a while, right? So making your own cards, it does take a while, but I find it very satisfying and fulfilling to have these cards be exactly what I need them to be instead of me having to figure out how to work around the cards that I have. This feels good to me. And don't get me wrong, I think there will be times when I want to scrapbook quickly that I will really appreciate having the Stories by the Month kit or any other kits that I might get in the future. But I have to say, on a day like this, I mean, it's snowstorming outside. I've got nothing else to do. I've got nothing but time and scrapbook supplies here today, so I might as well just make up some cards and have at her for the whole day. So I like how that pattern looks, and it's kind of an unusual color combination of that kind of gold along with the mint green, but I quite like how it looks, especially where gold shows up in a few other places on this spread. So I just added some dimensional adhesive from Stampin' Up to the back of that little matted title that says January looks like this around here. I will put that right there. And there we go. The first card of the second page is done. I'm going to put those photos back up under my computer and I'll bring them down if I need them. This is looking a little sparse, but it's okay. We'll see how it goes. I've got those photos on hand in case I need them. Now, for this photo, it's just like a whole 4x6 card that is the photo. So I'm going to do some stamping and maybe do some stamping. I'm just looking at what stamps I have and layering some stickers and that sort of thing on this. I decided not to go with any stamps because I couldn't find any that were perfect for this particular one. I do want to do January Stories. That's another one of those wood veneer pieces from the Ali Edwards January Stories by the Month kit from way last year. I wasn't scrapbooking much last year, so at this time of year, so that kit and a lot of kits didn't get used, although I did use a lot of the cards over the year. So I want to bring a splash of red to this side of the page. My top in one of the photos above that I haven't scrapbooked yet, my top is red, so that'll give me a pop, but I want a couple of other pops of red. So I'm looking for something red to put on this page. I found that one that says Kisses, and I also found another little blank red label card cut apart thing. So I decided to just randomly layer those labels, and I think that craft label does a really good job. It picks up on that golden tone that's in the stamping above that I just did. It's not gold, but it has that crafty kind of, the gold ink has a bit of a crafty look to it, craft colored. These are perforated, not cut aparts, but I guess punch outs. And so they do leave those little white knobbies on the edges. So I'm just using my scissors to cut those off. And then I'm writing finally done. And this little tiny red label will give me the punch of red that I'm looking for this photo. And I want to put something in that space below finally done. It looks a little awkward with that blank space under there. So I found this little tiny star. I really love this star. I just discovered it right now, and I'm going to stamp it in Coastal Cabana, which is a Stampin' Up ink, and it looks phenomenal. I love how crisp this stamp stamps. Really, really love that look. And now I have all these blank these blank labels around that wood veneer. So I'm going to get that little stamp again, the little heart stamp, and I'm going to put it in 2 more places so that I form a little visual triangle. And I thought about using it again and making another visual triangle of pink stars, but then I thought for my second visual triangle of stars, maybe I'll use these wood veneer stars that I have in my stash. So I grabbed 3 of those, and I'll use my Tombow Mono Multi adhesive to just glue them in 3 different places. So now I have this little sprinkling of stars around these labels that includes flat stars that are stamped as well as wood veneer. And I really like how that looks. It just adds something to that top corner, and there's clutter and a chair and a glass, and it's not a nice part of the photo, so it's a good part to cover up. Now here I'd like to spell out diamond painting somewhere, but if I use these sassafras letter stickers, which are one of my favorite things to use in Project Life, it will take up too much space. Anything with an M in it will almost always be too big of a word for Project Life because these letter stickers are pretty chunky. Then I remembered that the Jen Scow stamp set, this one is called Big High Five stamp set, and it includes this stamp that says 100% obsessed plus a little extra. And I thought that would look good stamped up here on the couch because the couch is not very nice looking there. It doesn't add anything to the photo. So I am using my nice juicy VersaFine Black Onyx ink. It stays wet for a while, so it's a little bit less likely to stick to a photo. Photos are quite sticky when you stamp on them, so I just always try to use a juicy ink pad for it. Or a pigment ink also. So I want that photo to go somewhere around there on that card, which is basically cut down from the Millie and June collection into a 4x6. But I'm trying to think about what I want to use to spell out diamond painting. Not the sassafras letters, but what else? So I want something bold. There's lots of nice letters here, but I'm looking for something bold. So I grabbed the gray, I grabbed the black, and I also grabbed the black letter tile stickers. These are almost all Kelly Purkey or Allie Edwards letter sticker stamps or letter stickers that I have in my Project Life collection. I just keep it in my Project Life Radscog. Obviously, you could use these for scrapbooking too, but these are just so well sized for Project Life that I just keep them with my Project Life stuff. So I'm going to spell out diamond painting, but I don't have an A, so I am going to just use the cutout around where the A was. And with these letter stickers that have the ink on them is basically bigger than the letter is, you can do that. And it's a really nice thing to do when you run out of letter stickers. It has this kind of handmade, it almost looks a bit like a ransom note. And I think that that's really fun. I did have another D, but just to make it look a little bit more intentional, not so much like I just didn't have one letter, even though that's the case. I cut out the outline of one of the D's as well, so that I could do that twice in this word. And then I'm going to spell out painting with these tile letter stickers. These are from Kelly Purkey as well. And at first I'm overlapping them because I usually do this when I spell out something with these tile letter stickers, but it's becoming clear to me that I actually don't have to here. It's actually... there's plenty of room here for me to put them, not only put them out, but I'm actually putting them with spaces between them. And then I realize that I don't have an N. So I'm going to use the white letter stickers for that. And we have a real piece together look here, and that's okay. I'm going to just glue down my photo so that it's justified over to the left there along with the title, Diamond Painting. And then I'm going to fill this space down here with some washi tape. And then I decided, oh, I'm going to run this washi tape the whole length of the card actually. I was going to just run it the width of the photo and the title, but then I decided to do this instead. Now this washi tape is a little bit thicker than it's a lot thicker than I need it. So I just stick it down to my trimmer and then I just cut it with my trimmer. Now it's too hard to do this with my trimmer here, so I'm going to have to put that away and I'll try this again. There we go. It's nice and straight now. I'm going to put that other strip of washi tape aside because I might use it on something else. And in fact, I think I do use it on something else. Now in this space that remains, I'm going to this is one of those 3x4 white cards with that inexpensive cardstock. I'm just going to cut off a chunk of that cardstock and I used my pencil to just mark where it needed to be. So I had to erase the little pencil. And this just fits perfectly in that little opening. So I want to do some journaling on this, and at first I thought I'd use this stamp from Jen Scow as well, but I'm going to come back to this stamp. I'll use it another time. It's basically too small for the size of card that I have here. Now this stamp will work well. This is from Ellie's Studio, and it's called Noted Volume 2 is the stamp set. And these dotted lines I think are going to look really good on this paper, but I don't want them to go all the way off the edge of the paper. Like I don't want them to go all the way over to the edge. So I'm going to mask off this card. Yeah, I find it easier to mask things horizontally than like to line up things straight horizontally rather than vertically. So I'm just going to hold my card like this. This washi tape is not helpful at all. So it's you know, sometimes washi tape doesn't last and it just gets all dried out, and that one was it. So I just tossed it in the garbage. There's no point in thinking I have a pretty mint green washi tape that I don't actually have, so I just tossed it. I don't know why. Sometimes I hold on to old washi and I think maybe I can fix it. Maybe if I'm super patient, I'll be able to get some off. And no, I don't want to do that. Now I want to hold this card in place because it might stick to the stamp and I might have to double stamp it. So I put a bit of temporary adhesive on my mouse pad. So I have that My Sweet Petunia mouse pad that is basically a grid foam thing for my mini Misty tool. And I want to put one more line up there, but with the spacing of this stamp, it wants to put two. So I'm just going to ink the bottom line, and then I'm going to stamp that, and there we go. So I'm just cleaning my stamps with my stamp chamois from Stampin' Up, putting those stamps away. I'm trying to put everything away as I use it so I don't have a massive mess on my desk. I am using way more tools and supplies than I usually use for anything, so I have to stay on top of it if I can. I really like how this card in particular has a real graphic and color blocked kind of look to it, even though it's not really color, it's all black and white, but I really like how it looks. What I'm writing here is first Sophie started diamond painting one of my canvases, then Liv started one, and now all three Banksford women are into this relaxing craft. Drill on. They're called drills, the little diamonds that you stick to the canvas. So using some tape to stick that in place, I really like how that looks. It gives such structure to the card, right? Like all of those bold straight lines and having things lined up and stuff. It just, everything is very predictable. So here comes that stamp set. This is a collaboration stamp set. It's made by Jen Scow, but she collaborated with Irit Landgraf for this one. And this stamp is called Daily Review Stamp Set. I really like how it's just this doodly outlined square. And, well, oh, I remember what happened here. I'm looking for a thumbtack, and I knew I had a thumbtack in one of my stamp sets, and I found it very quickly because my stamps are organized. So I just went into my school and documentation category of stamps, and there it was. It's a Studio Calico stamp set. Oh, it's actually not a Studio Calico stamp set. It is by Kelly Perky from 2017, and it's called Life Lessons. I'm just conditioning that Jen Scow stamp, and I'm going to stamp it on white. And I stamped it low enough because I plan to put a thumbtack in the top of this so that it looks like there's, like this is a little journaling piece that's tacked onto the photo. Just trying to decide which way it's going to go. I decided to put it that way. I'll use my ink right there. And then this stamp actually has a two-step stamping, so you've got this coloration that you can put on as well. And I wasn't sure how well it would stamp, so I'm leaving the other stamp in place just in case I have to re-stamp over it. And I'm using my Coastal Cabana ink, which I've used elsewhere already on this project, again by Stampin' Up. And it didn't quite, I think I'm not pressing down properly, but I got it there eventually. It took 3 tries. And then I just used an alcohol marker to very gently color in the pin part, like the needle part of that thumbtack. And now I'll put all of these things back on their stamp set, put the stamp set away. And I didn't bother to mask off that, so you can actually see the line from the, from the piece of paper. You can see the line behind the stamp, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. But if you wanted it to look even more perfect, you could have masked off that thumbtack and then stamped the outline by Jen Scow. So I'm just tidying this up a little bit. When I first cut it, it was a little messy. So there, see how that looks? I'm trying to decide where to put it, but it kind of looks cool covering it looks weird covering the fireplace. But also, if you put it over the fireplace, it actually covers up the tool that Scott's using, and that's the whole thing that I'm journaling about. So I'm grabbing this same stamp set. Again, this is the Big Picture Classes one that I have just stayed. I just left it on that block so that I knew I'd use it multiple times today, so I just left it there. And stamped that circular lines. They're dotted lines. And they're very tiny, so it kind of impacts the legibility. I should have written a bit smaller, but this says a Scott's, what does it say? Scott's stitching pony helps him hold the leather in place easily. And then there's a line that doesn't have anything on it, so let's put something on it. And I'm looking at all of my little tiny stickers, looking for maybe like a little row of hearts or a little something something. I could restamp that little star that I love so much from the other card, but I decided to grab an asterisk instead from another set and just stamped that in the same Coastal Cabana ink. So that's looking pretty good. I'll put that right there. And one of those stamp sets, the little tiny ones that I keep beside me, it says under construction. And that kind of inspired me to add another little kind of layered cluster over here in the bottom right-hand corner, where I'm going to stamp out a label that's going to include under construction, but also a couple of other labels just all layered together. So I'm starting by inking up this stamp. I'm going to use Stays On ink because these labels are a little slippery. These are Kelly Perky labels, and I didn't do a great job of stamping, but that's fine. The one time I didn't use my Misty is the time I should have, but that's okay. You can still read what it says. It says under construction. I'm just going to layer it with this pink label, just like that, and then I'll put this mint green label on top. And so it really is quite a continuation of the color scheme that I have going on with the pink and mint and gray. This is another one of those punch out labels, so I just had to take the little knobbies off of it. And we'll layer this over here. I don't want it lined up with the pink one, and I don't want it over too far. So yeah, I'll show you. I don't want it there. I want it over there. So I think that looks pretty cute. I just have to find something to put on that mint green square label. So I reached into my stash and grabbed my little resin collection of little resin pieces that I love so much. But when I reached in there, I saw that one of the other little tubs had these stars, these cork stars, and I thought that that would work even better. So I grabbed that and put that there. And now I have this card. It says, our story is one of ups and downs, highs and lows, and all the pieces in between. So thankful that our story continues. And that is, I guess, the second real card that's on my page. It's from an Allie Edwards kit. I don't know which one. I just ran, as you saw, that scrap of washi tape that I held on to, the one that I cut in half. I just put it at the top and bottom just to add a little something to that. Now at this point I'm about to take a bit of a break, and before I do so I just want to remind myself that I need to put more red over here because there's red over on the other side, and I know that there's also red on my sweater, and I added a bit of red on that photo with Liv doing the puzzle, but I don't want to forget that I feel like I need more red. So I just basically went to that little stash of resin pieces, and there's also some rubber in there, and I grabbed anything red and put it out here just to remind me, so when I come back from my break I know what I'm doing. I arranged them, it kind of looks cute just like it is, and I thought, a part of me was thinking I could just do this, right? Like I don't even really need to spread them around the page, but I don't think I'm going to do that. So I came back from my break and I had an idea for this bottom card here. It's basically going to be a little filler card. And what I wanted to do was have a circle that kind of protrudes off the top of the page, like that. But that circle isn't big enough. I've got just some sketches of Project Life cards that I like working with in a book so that I can recreate them. And so that's what I'm referring to there. And I decided to use these circle dies. These are Lawn Fawn stacked stitched circles, large and small. I'm using the very largest of them all. And oops, didn't mean for that to be there. And I'm just going to pull up my Big Shot Razcog and run that through my Big Shot. And there we go. And when I came back, I put the wrong camera on, so my apologies for the picture-in-picture. That was not intentional. I'm going to put this on here, and then I'm going to regret it. I'm going to cut that off, and then I realize, wait a second, I want to do something to this. I'm thinking this would look nice with a spotlight piece, you know, like one of those embellishments that's really nice, but you don't know what to do with it. One of those would look good on there. So this typewriter, I think, will work. I think these are from Maggie Holmes or something. They look Maggie Holmes to me. I can't remember the collection. I just looked it up and it's the Notes and Things collection from Crepe Paper, so pretty close. At this point I decide I'm going to do some mixed media on this card instead of just having it be, it looked too plain. So I'm going to not use that kind of splatter thing. Instead, I'm going to bring my white craft mat over. Oops, I have two of these and one of them is really dirty, so I have to clean that. But I'm going to do some mixed media. What I'm thinking I might do is get a stencil and blend some Distress Oxide. I grabbed peacock feathers because I wanted to go for a tone-on-tone look here. So I'm just over at my stencils right now, browsing and picking one. I came back with these two dotted ones, but also this one from Balzer Designs. This one is called Mini Burst, and this is the one I'm going to go with. So I'm going to use some washi tape to stick that down to my card, to stick my card to the stencil. And then I immediately changed my mind about the ink blending and decided to use this product instead. This is Glitz Glitter Gel, and it came in a recent Simon Says Stamp card kit. And I am using a flat spatula knife here. This is a craft supply, like an art supply. And it looks like a frosting spatula, doesn't it? But it's from the art store. And I'm just spreading that all over the stencil. And even though the center you're not going to see because that heart is going to cover it, I'm still putting it there so that there won't be a hollow section that isn't supported. I do put some press and seal over the lids of these sorts of tubs of mixed media supplies because I've had some things dry out on me over the years and I don't like it when that happens. Just using my fingers here to clear off the edges a little bit. And then I need to do a little bit of cleanup. So I cut that part out so you didn't have to watch it, but here it is when it's almost dry. It's not quite dry yet, but I'm going to leave it up there. And now, in the meantime, while I wait for that to dry, let's add a little bit of gold mist on the circle that I have, the partial circle that I have here. So I use my Heidi Swapp Color Shine and my little black guard, whatever, I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, my splatter guard. And then that's done. So both of those will dry, and meanwhile I will work on another card. So this card documents my new setup for work. Those are my little favorite Project Life designs, and so I'm using this circle. This is the circle that I cut as a sample to try to see if that circle would work on the 4x6 card, but what I'm finding is that that 3-inch punch that I punched for the other thing, it actually works perfectly on a 3x4 card. So I'm really happy to know that that punch works so well for that. I will definitely be doing more cards with this design because I really like this. So I just punched it out of one of the papers from the Millie and June collection because the plain white was too plain. and I was just kind of experimenting with two different looks. One is to make it look more like an oval, and the other is to make it look like a circle. I like it as a circle. The oval would have been good if I had planned on doing some writing above and below on the circle part, but it turns out I don't plan to do that. So I'll put this circle back together again, and because the photo will go right over the top of the place where the seam is, you won't even know that I cut it. I'm going to do some outlining. I'm just going to double outline around the outside edge of this circle. And then I'm also going to outline the card itself. That gives it a nice casual look. I'm going to do some hand stamping on this. And hand stamping, like when you kind of stamp out each letter one for one, I usually go for a pretty messy look when I'm doing hand stamping, hand letter stamping. So I knew that this was going to have a bit of a sketchy, shaky look to it. So the outlining just kind of adds to that. I have that wood veneer piece there that says start fresh or fresh start. And my journaling piece there just says new Doxy video setup. And that's just the service that I use. It's like Zoom, but it's for healthcare providers. And so I'm going to layer that just so that it covers up that part of my laptop that has that blue strip. Most of the blue strip will be covered by that. And basically I was just testing it out on myself. So I logged in. I was kind of logged in on my computer with I changed the background, and I have like some masks that are blocking, like digital masks that are blocking parts of my room so that you can only see me and you can't see my scrapping supplies beside me anymore. And then I logged on my laptop so that I could just see what a patient would see. So I used my kitchen shears to cut that wood veneer because I didn't want to use my good gold scissors for that. And I had to wash my scissors before I could do that, and there was still some water on it, so I just have to clean everything up. So there we go. Now I just need to, I wanted to put like testing 1, 2, 3. And at first I thought I'd do testing at the top and then 1, 2, 3 at the bottom. In the meantime, I'm going to just glue this star down here. This is a good way to add some red. As I mentioned, my objective here is to add some more red. And I didn't bother painting behind that star because most of what's behind it is white anyways, and I think it looks nice like that. So I'm in my stash looking for some small alphas, and I used to have some really great alphas that would have been perfect for this. They looked like a typewriter font, and they were on a wood block. They looked like they were wood blocks, but they were actually foam. But I don't have those anymore, or I don't have them handy. So then I have this lawn fawn set, but I really love these and I always go back to them. These are the small version of the Stepping Stone alphabet, which was put out by Studio Calico quite a few years ago, probably 10 or 15 years ago. And I adore these stamps, the tiny little ones, and I use them so much that they've lost their stickiness. So no time like the present to do something. I am doing a lot of scrap room maintenance these days, so I'm trying to kind of get a lot of things tidied up and in better shape in my room, so I thought I'd just take the time. One of these dishes has water and dish soap in it, and the other one just has water. So I'm just rubbing them in the water until they feel smooth again, and then I'm soaking them in the other just to get the soap off of them. And then I have a piece of an old t-shirt. Now the old t-shirts are good because they've been washed a million times and they don't have any lint. So this is a lint-free cloth that I have. And that means that as I dry these stamps, they're going to keep their stickiness. And now they're staying put on this little backing, and I was afraid that I would lose some of them, so I thought I better just wash them all right now. So now you know how to do that. If you ever have stamps that are losing their stickiness, just give them a little wash. Sometimes your stamps need a little bit of TLC. So I'll use that sample circle to off stamp. I don't clean these when I'm done with them, which is part of the reason they lose their stickiness. So I'm just going to write out the words testing. There we go. And as you can see, it's pretty shaky and not very neat, but that's what I'm usually going for when I do this kind of stamping. If I wanted them to look nice and neat, I would have used letter stickers. Or if I really wanted to use a stamp, I would have used my MISTI to line it all up nicely. But really, I would never choose hand letter stamping like this if I wanted a neat look, because I just don't have the patience for doing that. I'm not interested in lining up my stamps. I'll line up my letter stickers, but not my stamps. Now I'm looking in my stash because I know that this letter set doesn't come with numbers, and my purpose was to do testing 1 2 3, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I don't have 1 2 3. And so I do have 1 2 3 in the Mama Bear version of this. So I mentioned that this is the mini stepping stone. I also have the full-size stepping stone alpha stamps, which you see right there, and I managed to pick up the numbers on a sale maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I've had those stamps for a long time, but I've had the numbers for much less time. And so it says testing 1 2 3, which is what I wanted it to say. So we're done with that one. Now these two are both dry, so it's time to put this card together. I just put some Tombow Mono Multi in between the tape runner that was already on there from before. Remember, I peeled it off to do the mixed media, so it already had some ATG, but now it also has some Tombow Mono Multi, which will help it to stick down. I find ATG doesn't, or any kind of tape runner, doesn't usually stick very well to mixed media, so I just wanted to use some liquid glue there to make sure it stays put. Added the sticker, and we're good to go on that one. Now, that card was looking a little bit too plain. I want to see if I can combine the house and the winter. These are two rubber pieces that have been kicking around my stash for a really long time, so it's about time I got them on the page. So these are my two options, and what I decided to do was to repeat this design on this card. And what I'll do is I'll make it look like this little mini burst is coming out of where the house and the word winter is. So I figured out where that would be, and I flipped it around and taped my used washi tape to tape my stencil in place. And this time I am going to use ink instead of mixed media. I only have one color of that glitter gel, and I probably have something else that I could use that's pink in my stash, but I decided to use ink. So I grabbed my Distress Oxide. I'm using Picked Raspberry, and I'm using these blending brushes from Amazon. They're actually makeup brushes, and they're not the greatest quality. I get them for super, super cheap, and they tend to lose their hairs, so I was just kind of making sure that there were no stray hairs going to fall out while I do this. And I'm trying to make it so that the ink is darker around the center, and when I was cleaning my stencil, I did kind of curl up one of those little pieces, so I'm just being careful as I ink that I don't ink underneath of that piece by accident. And as long as you're cautious about that, it doesn't ruin a stencil or anything if you've got a little bend in it. You just kind of have to be cautious and be aware of where the bend is so that you can work around it. So there we go. And now I'm going to clean this off, and I'm just being careful to try to not do that again. I don't want to wreck this stencil. I'm going to put it away. I keep all of my stencils in little sandwich bags with the Ziplocs cut off of them. There's a little bit of ink on that rubber piece, and it wiped up just perfectly with a baby wipe. And although those two reds are not exactly the same, I really like how they look together. And I'm going to partially matte this on this red piece of cardstock that was actually left over from something else. It was from another pocket page from a while ago. I cut that down on all 3 sides, or all 4 sides. And my intention was to just leave it like this, and then in the part where there's no matting, you would see the card behind it. But then I had this other idea, which is maybe I'll mat the other half in this scrap that I already had there anyways. This is that it looks like white from this distance, but it actually has tiny, tiny little hearts on it. They're actually like a really, really navy blue purpley color, but they're so tiny that it doesn't matter what color they are. They just look kind of dark. You can't tell that they're not black. I'm going to use my Tombow Mono Multi-Adhesive to just stick down winter, and then also put the little house nestled in the above the W there, and in between the W and the dot from the I. There's a little splotch on the S in start for fresh start. And it looks like these guys are done. I'm just going to switch those so that there aren't two pink cards right beside one another. And then here's how these pages look, both of them together. So this is the page from the video before this, and then this page. And so again, here are some of the cards from the video before this. Those splatters look so nice on that card. I'm really glad I added those. And that gold thread, yum, that looks so delicious. I need to use that gold thread in that way a lot more often. I just love that look. So here are more from this page. Oh, that mixed media looks so nice, and it was so fun to do. I enjoy that. Special thanks go out to all of my Patreon supporters. All of the people that you see right here have helped support me over on Patreon, and they get special perks for doing so, including real-time versions of most of my process videos. So if you're interested in seeing these process videos much, much slower and with lots of explaining, you can go over there. Otherwise, I hope that you have a really great scrappy week. Take care, and I'll see you next time.